Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week are going well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. It's a smaller slate today, only 4 games, but within those 4 games, I found a ton of value for today's video. I've got 7 straight props and then a 4-leg parlay to close out the show. That's 11 props in total for today's slate of games. I'm really looking forward to handing these picks out to you guys. But first, as always, guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment down below. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. We are over halfway there, well over halfway there. And every time you guys hit the subscribe button down below, we get there just a little bit closer. Apologies for no video yesterday. Yesterday was Greek Independence Day. It was a major holiday for us Greeks. And so, unfortunately, I did not do a video yesterday, but no worries. We are back today with a ton of value. So, guys, without any more time to be wasted, let's dive right in. All right, guys, the first game that we are targeting for today's slate is the Golden State Warriors Miami Heat game, which kicks off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going with the Miami Heat Bam Adebayo over 13.5 rebounds plus assists as our first prop for today's slate. We will go ahead and get this over to the Outlier screen. Now, guys, if you don't know what Outlier is, they truly are the best sports betting tool on the market today. They constantly give updates. It gives you so much information. Everything that you're going to see in this video is available to you when you subscribe to Outlier. There is a special link in the description below that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to try it out for yourself. You've got nothing to lose. It's 7 days. You try it out. If you really don't like it, if you don't feel like it's that helpful, you just end your subscription. But if you like it, you resubscribe, and I guarantee you guys you will not be disappointed. This thing gives you so much insight, so much data, and it's not just for props. It gives you straight game stuff, over-unders, spreads, totals, money lines, all that good stuff. It gives you so much insight, so much data. I'm telling you guys, there is no better tool out there. It consolidates all the information that you need, that you would take hours and hours to across multiple websites to get. I use this and maybe 2 other websites, StatMuse and Fantasy Pros. That's it. So, guys, if you watch my videos, you know it's a very helpful tool. You also have my How I Bet NBA Player Prop video if you want to look a little more deeper into how Outlier works. That will be at the end of the video. It will pop up. But, guys, again, one more time, link in the description below, 7-day free trial. You do not want to miss this opportunity to use Outlier for yourself. All right, guys, here we go. Bam Adebayo over 13.5 rebounds plus assists. You get this line at minus 120 on DraftKings. It is available on practically every single sports book. Alternate line, they have not much for alternate lines. You can go up to 14.5, which I believe is only available on Caesar. So, yeah, you're pretty much only got the 13.5 to choose from, which is perfectly fine by us. You see here, Adebayo's cashed this in 7 of his last 10 games. You stretch that down to his last 11 of his last 20 games, a 55% hit rate for Adebayo. And on the season as a whole, he has a 63% hit rate. 38 out of 60 games this year, he has cashed this over of 13.5 rebounds plus assists. Now, you look at the head-to-head data, you'll see it's only a 33% hit rate in his last 3 games. But remember, those first 2 there are from last year. We're not paying attention to those. The one time that he's faced off with Golden State this season, back on December 28th of this season, he had 11 rebounds and 4 assists. So he already cashed this line versus this team once this year already. And if you look at the right side of the screen here at the defensive matchup here on the season total, Golden State Warriors, they are actually top half of the league in terms of rebounds allowed to opposing centers, giving up just 11.7 rebounds per game. They are bottom 3, though, in assists allowed to opposing centers, giving up about 4 assists per game. And that makes sense if you think about it. The last time he played, he had 4 assists. They give up 4 assists per game to opposing centers. If you look at their averages, he hit those exact numbers the last time they played, 11 rebounds and 4 assists. Over the last 7 games, if you narrow that data down for Warriors rebounding data versus centers, over the last 7 games, they are 13th in the NBA, giving up 15 rebounds per game. So it's about where they're ranked here. Obviously, the number's a little bit higher. But they're they're top half of the league. They're not a top 10 team. They're not a great rebounding team defensively against opposing centers, but they're also not a horrible version of that, right? They are about top half of the league, hovering around that 12-13 mark. So the defensive matchup is okay, but again, he already cashes once this year versus them. I will throw this set out here, though. If you look at the right side of the screen, the injury report, Duncan Robinson is out and Tyler Hero, they are both out tonight. And listen, it may not have a massive impact, but it is worth noting that this only happened 4 times this year where Bam Adebayo has played and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson have not. He's cashed his over in 3 of those 4 games, including the last time they played on March 24th versus Cleveland. He had 16 rebounds and 3 assists. Is there a direct correlation? I don't know, but it is worth showing you guys. So that's the first player prop for today's slate. All right, guys, for the second game we're targeting in today's slate, we're going with the Lakers-Bucks game. I actually have quite a few picks for this game, but the first prop from this Lakers-Bucks game, which kicks off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going with Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks over 20.5 points plus assists. Now, it's mostly green on the season here. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed over. But remember, it is worth noting, he was hurt. You see here, February 6th, he didn't play again until very recently on March 17th. So, yes, 8 of his last 10 games. But these games, we're going back to January here and early February. So, that data, a lot of this data, it's tough to look at. Like his last 20 games, it says 70%. But again, you're going back to December for that numbers. On the season, he's played 46 games. He's cashes over in 24 out of 46 games at a 52% hit rate. He had a really rough start to the year, but you see here since December, really, he's been, when he has actually played, which hasn't been a lot, he's been mostly in the green for Milwaukee. So he shook off that slow start, but then again he had a lot of injury concerns this year. So what I want to narrowly look at here is his 3 games since returning from injury. And you see here he has cashed this over in the 3 games since being back. On March 17th versus Phoenix, he had 22 points and 7 assists. On March 20th versus Boston, a tough defensive matchup, he had 22 points and 6 assists. And their last game versus OKC, he had 11 points and 10 assists. Just barely cashed the line, but he did cash it nonetheless. If you look at the right side of the screen here, the Lakers overall defensively on the season, they are bottom 7 in the NBA in points allowed and bottom 3 in the NBA in assists allowed. And you look at the injuries for LA, the Lakers are really banged up right now. No Jared Vanderbilt, no Gabe Vincent, no Christian Wood. A couple of these smaller bench guys are also out. The big thing, though, LeBron James is doubtful tonight with that left ankle tendonitis. He's probably not going to play. This is the second time this year he's kind of ducked the Bucks. Makes you wonder if he's a little afraid of Giannis. I'm not throwing that. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there. But he is probably not going to play tonight. Anthony Davis probably will play. So no LeBron. I don't think that'll help the Lakers defense, to be honest. LeBron being out. I know he's not a defensive stalwart, but he does help, especially against a matchup like this. So no LeBron. That probably will help Middleton's case. Versus small forwards on the season, the Lakers, again, they are about middle of the road in both the points allowed and assists allowed. So not like it's a great defensive matchup for Middleton, but again, the Lakers are missing a lot of key pieces. A lot of players are out. So defensively, you don't know how great the Lakers are going to be. They're not a great defensive team to begin with versus small forwards, but now with all the injuries, you got to wonder how this will be. And over the last 7 games, the data looks pretty much the same. They're about middle of the road in points and assists allowed to the small forward position. What we are really betting here are the trends. Now, the last 2 times he faced off with the Lakers were both last season. He cashed this over. But thanks to our friends at StatMuse, I was able to go ahead and look back a little further at the data to see what it looks like. Middleton has cashed this line in each of his last 6 games versus the Los Angeles Lakers, and in 9 of his last 11 games versus the Lakers dating back to like 2021, 2020, he has cashed this over. So his last 11 games versus the Lakers, he's cashed it in 9 of his last 11, including 6 in a row versus the Lakers. So the head-to-head matchup, it's really hard not to take it. Again, he's been playing very well since returning from injury. I think Middleton has a pretty good game here tonight and cashes this over. All right, guys, second prop from this Bucks-Lakers game, third prop overall. Almost got tongue twisted there. We're going with Damian Lillard over 23.5 points. And I know betting on the same team, these kind of same game props, there's some risk involved to it, but it's really hard not to take Lillard here. Now, the data's pretty good, not the best in the world, but it's solid. 6 of his last 10 games, he has cashed this over. On the 2023 season as a whole, a 56% hit rate, 37 out of 66 games he has cashed this over. And you look at the head-to-head, the one time he's played the Lakers this year, back on March 8th, not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, he had 28 points. Again, this is another one where it's really all matchup-based. You see here on the season, the Lakers are bottom 7 in the NBA in points allowed, giving up about 100, just shy of 118 points per game to opposing teams. But versus point guards, they are bottom 7 in the NBA, giving up 25 points per game to opposing point guards. And Lillard's head-to-head data versus the Lakers, dating all the way back to 2021, has been pretty fantastic. Again, one time they played the season back on March 8th, he had 28 points versus the Lakers. But the data going back to his Portland days, he's cashed this in 8 of his last 10 games versus the Lakers since 2021. So it's important that I do it from 2021 because the team, although the Lakers are a different team since then, for the most part, the key components are still there dating back to 2021. Although D'Angelo Russell is kind of a newer piece to that team, he's actually not a great defender, so it actually helps our case here. But Lillard has cashed in 8 of his last 9 games versus the Lakers dating back to 2021, so solid head-to-head data there. And the Lakers, over their last 15 games, are the 3rd worst defense in the NBA versus point guards, giving up 27 points per game to opposing point guards over their last 15 games. So a solid defensive matchup. Lillard, solid head-to-head data. I do like the prop here, over 23.5 points for Lillard. It is at minus 125. It's available on DraftKings, BetMGM, and Caesar. I'm sure if you play around a little bit, you go to 24 here. Prize Picks, which is essentially the same thing. You go to 24.5 pick points here. It's available on FanDuel. We're taking it at 23.5 at minus 125. I think it's pretty solid value. All right, guys, the third and final prop from this game, our fourth prop overall in today's straight prop slate. We're going with D'Angelo Russell of the Lakers now, over 27.5 points plus assists. Now, again, at first glance, the data is not great. 4 of his last 10 games, he's cashed this over. On the season as a whole, a 35% hit rate, 23 out of 66 games, the last 20, 45%, 9 of his last 20. You see, he hovers around the line. Now, this line is elevated. This line is usually not this high. There's a reason why the data doesn't look that great. It's because this is a boosted line. It's elevated because of circumstances surrounding the game. Again, LeBron probably doubtful. All the injuries to the Lakers mean that D'Angelo Russell's usage rate is going to go a lot higher here. The Lakers need to win, so he's going to play a shit ton of minutes in this game. And the fact that you're going up against a Milwaukee team that defensively versus point guards has been one of the worst all season. Look at the right side of the screen. Overall, on the year, Milwaukee, they are a bottom 10 defensive team, but they have been a lot better since the hiring of Doc Rivers. But the one area they have not been better at is versus point guards, and guards in particular. But versus point guards, they are bottom 3 in the NBA in points, giving up 26 points per game to opposing point guards. Although Milwaukee's ranks are a little bit better, they're still a bottom 10 defensive team over their last 7 games, giving up 25 points per game to opposing point guards. So all year long, they've been terrible. They've gotten a smidge better, but not much better. They are still one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA versus the point guard position. You look at the head-to-head matchup here. D'Angelo Russell, the last time they played, again, March 8th, just a few weeks ago, he covered this in points alone. He had 44 points and 9 assists in what was a 1-point win for the Lakers. An incredible game from D'Lo. And that's why this, again, there's a lot of circumstances as to why this line is elevated and why it's so red is because this line would never be this high normally. Normally, it'd probably be like at 19.5 or 20.5, but it's boosted because LeBron's probably out. You got the defensive matchup here. You know that D'Lo is going to play a ton of minutes. And you also know that the last time they played not too long ago, he had that huge, massive game where he had 44 points and 9 assists. Now, normally I'd fade a pick like this because, coming off that big game, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, we're got to take this over for D'Lo. The thing is, it's just so hard not to take the over when you add the fact that LeBron is out. Because you see down below, he's played 9 games this season without LeBron James, and he's cashed the line in 5 out of 9. It's a 56% hit rate, which I know isn't the highest hit rate in the world. But you see here, he's got close, right? The one time he missed versus Golden State, he had 18 points and 9 assists. He missed versus Minnesota, he had 17 points. Like, you see his misses here. When he does miss without LeBron, he is still very, very close. You look down below, look at his potential assists. 16 potential assists per game without LeBron. He's averaging 36 minutes per game without LeBron. And he's taking almost 18 shots per game without LeBron James. Again, these are all 9 games without LeBron. You see here the last time he played in Milwaukee, LeBron also didn't play. Literally the same scenario. He took 25 shots. Now, he hit 17 of 25 shots. I don't think he's going to shoot 68% from the floor again. But you see, he's had some pretty big games with LeBron. 26 shots attempt, 21, 20, 25. Utah, he had a little bit of a lower, only 8 shots attempted. But overall, you'll see in 8 of these 9 games without LeBron, he's taking at least 13 or more shots. And in, let's see here, you see a lot of them 15 or more. I mean, you see some really high shot totals here for D'Lo, including threes. He takes 7 threes per game without LeBron. Again, he took 12 threes. He went 9 for 12 from three-point range. Is he going to shoot 75% from 3 again? Probably not. We don't need him to score 44 points, though. I think with the assist numbers mixed with the fact that he should be able to pour in, I would say at least 20 points here. I do like the spot for D'Angelo Russell. All right, guys, moving on to a different game now. We're targeting the Thunder-Pelicans game, which kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going with Josh Giddey of the Oklahoma City Thunder over 14.5 points plus assists. Now, look, I think we're now past the point now in the year where we can stop making fun of me when I take Josh Giddey on my picks. I know in the earlier parts of the year, and you can even look on the 2023 season, you see earlier in the year you saw a lot less consistency. But overall now on the year, a 57% hit rate for Giddey at this line. 39 out of 69 games this year, he has cashed this over. And it's at minus 110 on DraftKings. You get it pretty much on every sportsbook this line is available. But look at his last 10 games. 9 of his last 10 games, a 90% hit rate. The only time he missed it was versus Utah. He only had 5 points and 8 assists. But overall, he's been cashing this pretty consistently. And you go to his last 20 games, still pretty solid. 12 of his last 20 games, a 60% hit rate. Now, looking at the head-to-head data, 5 of his last 7 games versus the Pelicans dating back to November 2022, he's cashed the over. It's a 71% hit rate. The last time they played on January 26th, he did miss the mark. It was a massive blowout win for the Thunder. They won by 24 points. He only had 4 points and 6 assists, and he only ended up playing just 22 minutes in that game. So that's why he missed the mark. He still hovered in that ballpark, but only played 22 minutes. But in the previous 5 before that, including back the one time they played before that on November 1st of the season, he had 15 points and 4 assists. So the head-to-head data is solid. You look at versus shooting guards on the year, New Orleans, they are bottom half of the league, giving up 27.5 points per game to opposing shooting guards, and they are one of the worst teams defensively in the NBA in terms of assists allowed to opposing shooting guards. They are bottom 4, giving up almost 7 assists per game to opposing shooting guards. The total set at 223, and the Thunder are 1-point favorites, so Vegas is expecting a close game with some moderate scoring here. I think if that's the case, Josh Giddey will have to be involved here. You look at New Orleans defensively, every other position, they're pretty strong. Right point guard, very strong. Small forward, pretty strong. Power forward, pretty strong. Versus centers is their weakest position, but the Thunder are not a traditional team with a center. They have Chet Holmgren, who's really good. He's a great player. I love Chet. But he's not a traditional center. He's more of a power forward, I would say, although he plays center for the Thunder. I wouldn't classify him as a traditional center here, although not a bad matchup for Chet. I think that Giddey has probably the best matchup on the court versus the Pelicans. So I think they'll take advantage of that, and I think he will cash this line. All right, guys, the second prop from this game and our 6th prop overall in our straight prop segment, we're targeting Zion Williamson over 25.5 points. If you guys are curious, I am mostly going over for tonight's slate. The totals are pretty high. The spreads are pretty close. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring tonight. I think there's going to be some big performances. All these teams, there's seeding implications. There's playoff spot implications. There's no matchups here in today's window where you have teams that it's like the Jazz versus the Celtics. You know what I mean? Like, there's no teams where it's like, okay, one team is significantly better than the other. The only matchup close to that, I think, is Milwaukee versus the Lakers because LeBron is out. But the Lakers beat the Bucks last time when LeBron didn't play. So I think all the matchups tonight are really tough. They're all teams like the Warriors need to win. The Lakers need to win. You got a lot of teams who really need to win to make the playoffs and stay alive in the playoff picture. Teams like Dallas and Sacramento. So I like the overs in today's slate. Not a lot of unders that I like. So all my picks today are overs, just letting you guys know that ahead of time. Zion, this over 25.5 point prop line is available on practically every sports, but we're getting it right now at minus 120 on DraftKings. And at first glance, look, the data is not great. They are bottom. 6 of his last 10 games, he has cashed this over. The last time he played versus Detroit on March 24th, 2 days ago, he had 36 points. And look, the data, this is very similar to that D'Angelo Russell prop where normally this point line isn't this high, which is why you see the numbers are not great. A 38% hit rate on the year, 23 out of 60 games this year, Zion has cashed this over. And the reason this is because you're usually not getting Zion's points at 25.5. It's usually lower. It's usually something more along the lines of like 21.5, 20.5. You look here, if you take an alternate like a 19.5, the data is a lot better. 68% hit rate. It probably wouldn't be this low. Right now, this is at minus 400 odds if you took this. It's probably more like 20.5, 21.5. Right now, you look at 23.5, it's at minus 175. And the data is still not fantastic at 47% hit rate, but it's probably more along this line. The line is elevated because of circumstances and matchup. Now, defensively, it says here the Thunder, they are top 10 in the NBA in terms of points allowed versus power forwards, and they are bottom 10 versus centers. But the Thunder struggle with size here, and Zion is the type of player that the Thunder do not want to meet in a matchup, right? Zion is a big bully down low. The Thunder do not have the bodies, the strength, the size down low to match up with a player like Zion Williamson. I didn't want to take this prop at first because that line is so elevated, but I do think Zion has a massive game. Now, you look at the head-to-head data. When he's played OKC this year, he's only played them once this year. On November 1st, he had 20 points. The last time before that was November 28th. He had 23 points. So you see here, the one time he played, he didn't hit this line. But again, it's an elevated line. Part of that reason being, you look at the injury report, Brandon Ingram is out for the Pelicans again. So that's a big reason why this line is also elevated. When Brandon Ingram's out, Zion's usage rate goes way up. I'll be transparent with you guys. The data is not fantastic when Brandon Ingram's out either, although the last time he played without Ingram, he had 36 points. He had 27 points there. But for the most part, 4 out of 6 times this year when he played without Ingram, he's cashed the under. So, look, I'm going to be honest. It's a risky pick. The data is not fantastic in any way you shape it. Why am I taking this pick then? I don't know. I think that this is a game. The line is elevated for a reason. Obviously, that means people are betting on it. I just think Zion's going to take advantage of this matchup. The Pelicans do need these wins for seeding purposes in the Western Conference. I think the Thunder are going to get kind of bullied here in this matchup. Again, this is the riskiest pick I'm giving you of today's slate, but I am going to ride with it. I'm going to take Zion over 25.5 points and trust that he's going to take advantage of this matchup. It is a 1-point spread game. The Pelicans are only a 1-point underdog here, which means it's going to be close. And if this game's going to be close with Brandon Ingram being out, you got to imagine that it's going to be Zion being the main culprit of why New Orleans hangs around. The point total also decently high, so we're expecting some scoring. Again, you could go CJ McCollum, and you look here, the shooting numbers versus shooting guards, the Thunder, they struggle defensively versus shooting guards, bottom 2 in the NBA. So McCollum's not a bad bet, and honestly, I probably give it to you guys, the CJ McCollum prop. Not a bad prop to take his points, but I do like Zion here in this matchup. And just to show you guys that CJ McCollum prop, it's at over 19.5 points right now. You can get that on pretty much every sportsbook. It's minus 120 on DraftKings. Again, similar with Zion, it's an elevated line. His point line usually is not that high. So you look at the data, it's not going to be fantastic, but not a bad prop. Actually, you know what? Audible on the fly, we're going to throw this on the slate as well. We're going to add that to our pick slate here. CJ McCollum over 19.5 points here. The matchup's really good. And you look at the head-to-head data here. 2 of the last 5 meetings with the Thunder, he's cashed the over. And 2 times this year, on November 1st, he had 29 points. He cashed the over. And the last time they played on January 26th, he only had 12 points, but it was a 24-point blowout win. Again, without Brandon Ingram, though, the data is solid. 5 of 7 games this year without Ingram, he's cashed the over, including 5 of his last 6. That Miami game, he only played about 15 minutes. So sometimes it happens here on the show, guys. You're getting a kind of a peek behind the curtain. I see picks while I'm recording the video, and I'm like, yeah, I got to take that. So I'm going to add this. So you actually get 8 straight props in today's slate. So we're going to add the CJ McCollum over 19.5 point prop with the Zion prop. We'll throw that in there. All right, guys, the 8th and final prop of our straight prop segment. We're trying to fly through this. Excuse me. Jeez. Because we do have our 4-leg parlay still to get to here. We're going with the Mavs-Kings game. We're going with Luka Doncic over 10.5 assists. Now, this game has the highest point total of any game in today's window, and the spread is pretty close. Right now, at the time of recording, the Kings are a 1-point favorite, but the over-under is set at 233. So it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Luka over 10.5 assists. Listen, I wanted to target Luka in this game in some way, and I think the assist is probably the smartest way to do that. Overall, the Kings, they are bottom 9 in the NBA in terms of assists allowed, giving up 27 assists per game to opposing teams. Again, the data not fantastic because it is an elevated line for Luka. We're getting this, at over 10.5 assists. You could go lower to 9.5, but that is at minus 200. But we're going to get it at 10.5 here, which on DraftKings, we're getting at minus 125 on FanDuel. It's available on every sportsbook. He has covered this in 5 of his last 10 games. You know, his last 20, a 55% hit rate, 11 of his last 20. You see here, he hovers around this line pretty consistently. And look at the head-to-head data. The last time these two teams played on January 27th, he had 17 assists versus Sacramento. He did play 46 minutes in that game, but he had 29 potential assists the last time he played the Kings. So the last time they played, 29 potential assists, he finished with 17. I like that spot here for Luka. There's going to be a close game, a lot of points. Again, he has some really big games. Last game versus Utah just last night, he had 13 assists. Both of these teams are playing on the second night of a back-to-back, so there's really no advantage there. They're both playing on back-to-backs. And again, the data, it's not fantastic, but that last match they played, Luka absolutely, and it was another one. It was a close game. Sacramento won 120 to 115. They're expecting another close game tonight. A similar point total too. That total is 235. The total tonight is set at 233. So Vegas is kind of saying, hey, we're going to get a similar game to that last time they played. And if that's the case, I like Luka's assists. All right, guys, so now we're going to go ahead and kick this over to our parlay part of the video. Now, the good news is that we do have some players here that we've already taken, so I won't have to go too much into matchup data and stuff like that. We have a 4-leg parlay plus 366 odds. They are all mostly alternate lines here, but I'm very confident I like this spot. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into this parlay, guys. All right, going back to the LI screen, we'll stay right where we were with this Mavs-Kings game. And yeah, I'm sticking with Luka. This one, though, we're going with his points, rebounds, plus assist line at 49.5. This is an alternate line. We're going to get minus 220 on DraftKings, but you see here he's cashed this line in 8 of his last 10 games. You stretch that data to his last 20, 75% hit rate, 15 of his last 20 games, and on the 2023 season as a whole, a 66% hit rate, 41 out of 62 games he has cashed this line. Versus shooting guard Sacramento, they are bottom 5 in points allowed, although rebounds and assists allowed, they're defensively not bad. Again, you look at the head-to-head matchup, the last time he played them, on that January 27th matchup, he had 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 17 assists. So he had a massive game. We're expecting a very similar game here, so I'm expecting similar numbers. The previous 3 times he played them, including the other time he played them this year on November 19th, he had 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists. He did miss the mark, but he is generally, pretty close. But the data on the year is too good not to pass up. So we'll take the first leg of our 4-leg parlay, Luka Doncic, over 49.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. All right, guys, for the second leg of our 4-leg parlay, we're going back to that Lakers-Bucks game. This one, we're going D'Angelo Russell over 6.5 assists. This is an alternate line at minus 270 on DraftKings, a pretty high alternate line. Again, the regular season data, it's not fantastic, but there is one stat I really want to show you guys. Now, at first glance, you see here D'Lo, 39% hit rate on this over, 26 out of 66 games. This is, again, an elevated line due to the matchup and due to the circumstances here. Milwaukee, they're actually top 10 in the NBA in terms of assists allowed. They only give up about 8 assists per game to opposing point guards, but we go here and filter this to games without LeBron because he is doubtful. He's probably not going to play tonight. If he does play, it changes it a little bit. But you see here, in 9 games without LeBron James this season, he is 100% hit rate on this over, including versus Milwaukee. He had 9 assists last time they played. He averages 16 potential assists a game when LeBron doesn't play. The lowest is 11. He had that versus Minnesota on December 21st. So assuming LeBron doesn't play, which he is doubtful for tonight, so I'm operating under the assumption he's not going to play. This is a 100% hit rate. He has never missed this prop when he plays without LeBron. In his last 20 games, now this dates back to last season, still a 70% hit rate, 14 of his last 20 games. But again, you look at his 9 games this year without LeBron, a 100% hit rate. That's the second leg of our 4-leg parlay. All right, third leg of our 4-leg parlay, going back to that Thunder-Pelicans game. We're going with Jonas Valanciunas of the Oklahoma City Thunder over 9.5 points. Now, as is the trend for most of this video, a lot of these stats, the data is not fantastic due to matchup and circumstance. Now here, the last 20 games, last 10 games isn't great, but on the 2023 season as a whole, a 68% hit rate, 48 out of 71 games this year, he's cashed this over. He had a lot more hits early in the year. Of late, he's kind of been a little cold here for the Pelicans. But look at the head-to-head matchup here. In 6 straight meetings with the Oklahoma City Thunder dating back to December 2022, he's cashed the over. 6 of his last 7. The last time he failed to hit this over was on November 28th, 2022. He had just 8 points versus the Thunder. We're talking now, over a year and a half ago. But still, the head-to-head data pretty solid. The 2 times he's played them this year, he has cashed this over. And again, when you filter this without Brandon Ingram, in 8 games this year without Ingram, Valanciunas cashed this in 7 of 8 games. The only time he missed it was versus Miami. He had just 8 points. Miami, obviously, a really good defensive team, and that was a blowout win for the Pelicans. I believe he only played, only 21 minutes here. But you see, overall, solid data without Ingram versus centers. The Thunder, they are bottom 10 in the NBA in terms of points. They'll give you up 19 points per game. In his last 20 games without Brandon Ingram, now this dates all the way back to January of last year, a 95% hit rate without Brandon Ingram over his last 20 games. 19 of his last 20 games without Ingram, he has cashed the over. So again, with Ingram being out, with the matchup data, all that good stuff, I do like this prop here. All he needs to do is score 10 points, so we're getting this at minus 145 odds on FanDuel, minus 165 on DraftKings. And the fourth and final leg of today's parlay, we're going back to the Warriors Heat game. We're going with Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat over 29.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. We're getting this on DraftKings at minus 220 odds here. And the data's pretty good here. 6 of the last 10 games, he's cashed the over. You go to his last 20, 13 of his last 20 games, 65% hit rate, not too bad. And on the season as a whole, a 73% hit rate, 44 out of 60 games this year, he has cashed this over. And you look at the head-to-head data, each of the last 3 times he's faced off with the Golden State Warriors, including the one time they played this year, back on December 28th, he had 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, this is a filter to show you guys what the data looks like on this prop this year when Tyler Herro's out. And you see here a 76% hit rate, 19 out of 25 games this year without Tyler Herro. He has cashed this over. I would show you with Tyler Herro and without Duncan Robinson, but there's only 4 instances of that this year. And it is a 3 out of 4 hit rate, so it's 75%. So those 2 being out, it only makes the data even stronger. And the Warriors on the year versus centers, bottom 3 in assists allowed, bottom half of the league in points allowed. They're about middle of the road in rebounds allowed. All right, guys, there is our 4-leg ticket. Luka Doncic over 49.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. D'Angelo Russell over 6.5 assists. Jonas Valanciunas over 9.5 points. And Bam Adebayo over 29.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. A lot of alternate lines on this parlay, but a lot of great data here. Your parlay, all 4 of those are going to get a parlay of plus 366 odds. Guys, that is it for me today. This is the longest video I've ever done here for the player prop series, but you got 12 props for today to use. 8 straight props and then a 4-leg parlay. There was so much data that I found, so much good data that I needed to share with you guys that obviously I had to talk a little longer. So guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment down below. Until tomorrow, I hope we're all winners. Have a good one, guys.